To get started in supine butterfly or Supta Baddha Konasana if you're more familiar with yin practice. I do suggest grabbing on, if you have like 2 throw pillows or even 2 blocks or 2 books for either side of your knees, since we're going to be opening up in this and being in this a little bit longer. So you'll just come down to your back whenever you're ready to do that and grabbing onto your props. And you can always prop up your upper body as well if you don't want to lie flat on your back. But putting your props underneath your knees, having the soles of your feet to touch your knees out wide, having your knees resting on your props just allows a more gentle opening of the front side of your body. Since we typically do this posture later on in class, I definitely recommend the props for the beginning, just to gently open you up here. So once you've settled in, just kind of get your wiggles out, roll your shoulders on your back, and then you can either bring your hands to your belly to start paying attention to your breath right away, or perhaps you face them facing down to ground if you've been feeling extra anxious or stressed or just on the go lately. Facing your palms downward really does help you ground down to the earth. So your choice here, but whatever you decide, just softly close your eyes to settle in. Take a deep breath in and a full open mouth, sigh out, let it go. This next 60 minutes on your mat is your time to be here, to unwind, to undo, to reset. Anything that I call out for you tonight, if it's not quite what you're looking for, you're always welcome to take a variation, a different posture. This is your time in your class. I'm just here to guide you through, and you know your body best. So if anything feels really uncomfortable to you or just off in some way, feel free to grab extra props to, again, take any kind of modification or just do something totally different. This is your time to explore that. And anything that you came to your mat with tonight, just see if you can leave it off to the side. This is our last yoga class of 2020. Which has been a crazy year for almost everyone. And I know that 2021, at least the beginning of it, won't look that much different than 2020, but I think that whole shift of it's a new year, it's a reset of some kind, it's a new opportunity to look ahead. I think it gives us a little bit of hope, at least it gives me a little bit of hope that things will be different next year, and hopefully sooner rather than later. So whatever you need from 2021, just see if you can breathe that in, breathe that out, just knowing that we're easing into this new year. And typically it's a time where people set intense goals or just things that we want to achieve. And I tend to do that. Like in 2019, I was like, in 2020, I'm going to read 20 books in 2020, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And of course, none of that happened because of the year. And I think it gave me a lot of perspective of, you know, all of this stuff is completely out of our control. It always has been. And a lot can happen and change in just a really short amount of time. So just coming to terms with the fact that we don't know what 2021 might bring, but just showing up for it and accepting as much as we can, whatever comes our way, and that we will get through it in some way, is just, you know, a new way to look at goal setting or just embracing the new year. So again, settling in here, using this time to really zone in on any areas of tension. So as we're opening up in the front side of the body, you might notice that your low back is a little tight. Typically, our hamstrings, if you sit a lot throughout the day, your hamstrings are going to be tighter, and then you're going to have tight psoas, which connects to low back, and you might have low back issues. So this is a gentle opener for the front and back side of your body, just allowing your low back to open up as well. So if you're holding on to any tension anywhere, if you're feeling any tension in your forehead, just see if you can relax your eyebrows just a little bit. And I tend to hold on to tension in my jaw area. So see if you can just release your jaw just a little bit and remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And if you continue your body scan on the way down, so your shoulders, if you feel like you're carrying onto tension there, if you could just roll them up and then down your back to release any tension. Softening your hands. A lot of us grip a lot when we're not even thinking about it. You might be holding on to tension in your hand. Just seeing if you can relax your hands a little bit, allowing your knees to really fall to either side, your feet to just touch each other and ground down. Sending breath to any tight spots in your body that you still might be holding on to. And take one more round of breath in here. Big open mouth, sigh out. Slowly on your next inhale, start to close your knees back together, bringing your knees in towards your chest, and then just gently rock from side to side just to loosen up your low back. And at this point, if you used any props, you want to move those out of your way, staying in this position still. And from here, we're going to take a supine twist. So your knees will be in towards your chest still. Start to tee out your arms. And then on your next exhale, start to slowly drop your knees over towards the left-hand side of your mat. And your right shoulder blade might have popped off of the mat right away. See if you can just lift up your right and left shoulder blade to bring them both down to the mat, anchoring them both down. You might have to come off of your twist a little bit to make that happen. You might need to place a block underneath your left knee or in between your knees to allow that to happen. So we're just getting into this supine twist here, finding a shape that feels good to us. And again, you might need props, and typically you don't. Just listen to your body here. But once you have found a good shape for your legs, leaning over to the left, take your gaze towards your right fingertips, and then softly close your eyes once you're into this twist. So this one's a good one to, again, release tension in our low back. You might start to feel a stretch in your right hip flexor area and your IT band. And this also helps just give your internal organs a little bit of a light massage. So typically you're not holding any kind of twist for very long throughout the day. So this just gives our bodies a little bit of a chance to bring out, restore, try something new, give ourselves a little bit of a break. And again, anything that you're holding on to here, just seeing if you can let that go. You're here on your mat, you signed up for yoga. It's the last yoga class of the year, at least live yoga class of the year. And just being here on your mat, trying to be as present as you can. And of course, all of our minds are going to wander from time to time. You might start to think about the new year, just next couple days ahead, and that's okay. You know, as long as you do have the ability to bring your awareness and attention back to what you're doing, knowing that this time is for you, your self-care time, that time that we always say we don't have time for. So allowing yourself to actually rest and do something for yourself. We're about halfway through this side. So if you need to make an adjustment, you certainly can, but try to stay still. It's so hard to do, but you get the most benefits out of each posture, the more still that you can hold the pose. Breathing in here. Have been struggling all year to finish books. I had a goal in the beginning of this year to finish 20 books in 2020, and before the lockdown happened, I was on a roll. I think I finished maybe 5 or 6 books in January and February, and I knew for sure, at that time that I was gonna crush the goal, probably get way more books than I thought, and then everything changed. And I love to read. I've always loved to read, and I couldn't find any joy in reading or doing much of anything. I couldn't find any energy to do it. I would start books, couldn't finish them, would put them back on the shelf. I can't tell you how many books I've read, maybe a chapter or two, and then abandoned because it was just way too much. And I started to get really down on myself because I, had this goal and I wasn't going to meet the goal. And then I started to tell myself, like, hey, it's okay. A lot has happened this year, and if you don't have the energy to do the things that you once found joy in, like, forcing it isn't going to bring you more joy. So I kind of just accepted the fact that it wasn't going to meet my goal, and that, if it was really something that wasn't going to bring me joy, that I did need to put pressure on myself to do. But I'm happy to report that I'm almost finished reading my first book since the pandemic started. Thanks to Becky. She got me this book on burnout, and it has been such a great book and so needed, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, I'm almost done. I have, like, I don't know, however many more pages to go in the last chapter. So I'm almost there, and I'm gonna make, one book done. But it just felt good to really read something that resonated so much with me. So I think that is the message there, is that, I was so desperately trying to just read that, finding a book that actually had meaning to me, that's something that I actually needed. It didn't feel like a chore to read it. So I'm so thankful for that, and so thankful for Becky and for that book. So just wanted to share that little story. But on your next breath in, we are going to switch sides, but we're going to take a brief step towards the center. So bring your knees back to center, and then just sway from side to side just to release your low back. We held that twist for quite a bit. And before we really get into the other side, we want to make sure that we can touch back down our spines. And then when you're ready on your time, we're going to switch that out. So if you did use a prop on the other side and you want to move that, now's the time to do it. Tee out your arms. And then just start to drop your knees over toward the right hand side. And you might notice that your left shoulder blade popped off the mat pretty quickly. Just try to rotate your upper body to allow both of your shoulder blades to be evenly on the mat. And again, you might need to come off of your twist quite a bit to make that happen. And each side's going to be different. So just taking what you need, taking the time to set up properly, don't rush it. So often we rush through our day and try to just get it done and get into it and whatever. But if you really just slow down and take a breath and take the extra couple seconds to get into something correctly, you get more benefits out of it, just like with your yoga poses. So take that extra time. And then once you feel like you're in a good spot, start to take your gaze over towards your left fingertips. And then just close your eyes once you're there. And again, each side's different. We're not symmetrical. We hold tension differently in each side of our body. Each side of our body is just shaped different. And you might not notice it just from the outside of looking at the mirror, but you're not perfectly symmetrical. Even one of your legs might be like slightly longer than the other. And you just might be holding on to extra tension and stress on one side so that it actually stresses your muscles out on that side a little bit more. And anyways, you're not going to feel the same in each yoga pose on each side. So taking what you need, leaving behind what you don't judge where you're at. And each time you practice yoga, you'll notice that you need something slightly different. So you might, be really open because you had a really good walk and you were really active and your hamstrings are stretched out, you weren't sitting all day. And so your yoga practice might feel so good and so different. And then the next time you practice, you might be under a lot of stress and you may have sat all day and been slumped over on your computer or your phone and you're under a bunch of pressure for something. And then you get to yoga practice and you're like, how come I can't get into this pose at all today? Our bodies really keep score and they know when we're stressed out. The key is to really listen to that. So you may not really realize you're anxious or that stuff's going on with you or you're holding on to all this stress, but your body certainly knows that. That's why a lot of us will get run way down after like a big project or intense stressful situation. You might be able to get through it, but then right after it, you might get sick because your immune system is just like enough, or your body just might not be able to handle it anymore. So things like restorative yoga just help you release some of that so that you don't get to that place of wanting to quit or things being too intense. So just use this time to really see what you can let go of, see how you can reset. And we're more than halfway through. So just keep easing into this pose. Stay still if you can. Using your breath here. Take a deep breath in. Big open mouth, sigh out, let something go. Your next inhale, bring your knees back to center. And again, we'll just take that few moments here to rock out our low back. Twists are so great for opening us up, but they also really stretch our low back area. So just take your time, massage it out, touch your spine down to your mat. And then slowly on your next inhale, make your way up to a comfortable seated position. So taking your time, we spend a lot of time on our back. So ease into that. And then grab onto your props. We're gonna take a seated forward fold. So for most of us, our chests can't get anywhere near our thighs, and hovering over them for several minutes just won't feel that great. So you'll want at least a couple pillows or blocks if possible. But before you stack up your props, move any extra flesh from your seat so that your sit bones can really ground on your mat, and then extend your legs long towards the front of their mat. And that's when you can start to stack up your props on your lap or in between your legs, whatever feels most comfortable to you. On your next inhale, take your arms up, your gaze up, really reach towards the ceiling. You feel a great big stretch in both of your side bodies. And then on your exhale, slowly start to reach towards the front of your space. And once you feel your spine really start to round, that's when you can ease back into your props. And this is where you might need an adjustment or two on number of props or position of props. So take your time to mess around with that for a little bit here. And then once you found a place where you can really rest on your props, that's when you should relax as much as possible, close your eyes, really get into this forward fold. Start to see if you can lengthen your breathing. So if you haven't already, start paying attention to your breath, allowing your belly to really be soft and fully expand out, letting in all that really good air. And then slowly on your exhale, just allowing your belly to fully go in. So if you can imagine that your belly button can touch your spine, which we know it cannot, but just that visual of pulling in as much as you can to release all of that air out, to get that stale air out, so that you can make room again for that really good air. So what I like to imagine when I know I need to slow down my breathing and also just allow my breath to be in my belly instead of my chest, because so often we're frantically breathing throughout the day, we're so stressed, and you don't even think about your breath because your body automatically does it for you, thankfully. So it's something we don't even have to pay attention to, which is great because it keeps us alive. But at the same time, we typically will have that shallow chest breathing, and then you're really not getting the full benefits of the reset of your breath and bringing in really good air and oxygen. So I like to imagine when I'm trying to really focus on expanding my belly out, that there's just really good energy or really good something great in the air around me, and I want to get in as much as I can, take in as much as I can, so that, you know, I can imagine my belly expanding with all of this really great energy, these good vibes, all the good stuff that I really want and need. And then on my exhale, I imagine that to make room for more of that good stuff, I'm getting out some of that bad, stale air, the stale energy, the, you know, stress, the worry, the anxiousness, whatever, so that I can have more space and more ability to expand my belly out even more the next time I breathe in. So sounds silly, it is silly, but it does really help, at least for a cycle or two of breath, to be more mindful of it, to start to pay attention to it, and to really try to slow it down, and also allow the breath to really be in your belly instead of your chest. So humor me, just try to do that for a few rounds of breath here as you're getting all the great benefits of this forward fold. And I had a yogi who is not on tonight, but he has said that he hates forward folds, like hates them, doesn't like them. They make him crazy because, you know, just he didn't know why we were doing them. Like when he first joined yoga, he's like, these are dumb. I don't like them. They're really hard. I don't like them. And I had said a comment like, well, sometimes the hardest stuff for us is stuff that we need the most. And it's typically true, you know, that forward fold is a reset, and it really helps you reset the parasympathetic nervous system, really helps you calm the mind. And that made him more anxious, thinking about like being still and calming down and all that. Well, he's done yoga, you know, for months now with us, and he recently told one of my friends who, you know, I was chatting with, that, oh, tell Amanda I did a forward fold today on my own. And that just really made me smile, because it's like, you know, hopefully these silly things that I share with you guys, or things that we do in class, like you can take them with you wherever you are at, and hopefully they are impacting you in some way to where, hey, I'm stressed, I need to do a forward fold, and you can remember to do a forward fold, and that it's something that you took away from a certain yoga class. And that makes me so happy when I hear stuff like that. So you know, if these forward folds are not your thing, just think of that too. Like maybe it's because you really need it, and maybe there's a reason why you're resisting it so much. And for me, I typically tend to resist our pigeon pose, because I store a lot of my stress in my hips, and it brings up a lot of stuff for me. And so I know I need them more than almost everything else. So there might be a pose that you know is your pose that you're like, I hate this pose, but it's so good for me, and I know that I need to do it. So whatever that is, hopefully that you challenge yourself throughout the week to do it on your own time. And the more that you practice it, the easier it will be. Take 2 more rounds of breath here, 2 more cycles of air. Breathing in all that good space around you, that good energy. Breathing out something that you no longer need. And slowly, when you're ready on your next inhale, start to make your way out of this forward fold, taking your time to really come out of it. And then bend your knees in towards your chest. Bring your hands behind your seat with your fingertips facing your glutes. And we'll just windshield wiper our legs from side to side, just to undo our low backs again, because we're just opening them up like no other. And when you're ready, we're gonna make our way to a child's pose. So come to a tabletop position, and then knees about mat width distance apart, toe tips a touch, sink back down to your heels, and then start to crawl your fingertips towards the top of your mat, and bring your forehead down to something. So if it's not feeling good to place your forehead on the mat, you can always grab a block or a pillow or a blanket or whatever, sweatshirt, whatever you have around you, just to touch your forehead down to something for that grounding. And close your eyes. Really just start to assess tension in your body. So if you are holding on to tension in your upper body, roll your shoulders down your back. You should feel a lat stretch happening in your upper body on both sides. Sinking your sit bones down towards your heels as much as possible here. Trying to have even weight in your sits bones. And then just really, as you breathe out, just imagine that you're melting into your mat. Like just that visual of, I am here, I can just relax and melt fully into my mat on every exhale. Seeing if you can just release something, relax, let go of some of that tension. We don't need to hold on to it. We tend to not realize how much tension we're storing in our bodies because we are so busy and we don't sit still enough to pay attention to it. Unless we're forced to. If we have some kind of injury or illness, then you better believe we know when something's up going on with our bodies. But typically, you know, we can go for days, weeks, months without really thinking about it until you get to that point of, oh crap, I have been neglecting something and letting things fester and store up, and now I have some kind of like low back issue or neck issue or knee issue or whatever it ends up being. So this practice of yoga is a practice of self-compassion and allowing yourself to release that stress and tension so that it doesn't keep building up on you, so that you don't hopefully have a bunch of stress and tension in your body, so that you can avoid hopefully some major injury or illness. It all kind of goes together hand in hand. So treat yourself with some compassion, allow yourself to really get into this, seeing where you can really melt down. And just use this time to pay attention to your breath. So if you let your mind wander, just try to bring it back to your mat. And then just really pay attention to your cycles of breath, making sure that, again, it's in your belly. You're allowing your belly to fully expand out on the inhales, to breathe in that good energy, and then sighing it all out on your exhale. So just ground down here. We're more than halfway through. Deep breath in. Full, open my mouth, sigh out, let something go. On your next inhale, start to come up out of this. We are going to take thread the needle, so you can keep your bottom part of your body in child's pose shape for your thread the needle, or you can come up to a tabletop for it. Really depends on how intense of a stretch you want on your shoulder. So if you need more of a stretch, coming into this tabletop will allow you to get more into your shoulder. If you want something more gentle, you can stay, again, in your child's pose legs. But either way, no matter how your bottom half is, start to really ground down into your left palm when you're ready. Inhale, take your right palm up to the sky. Take your gaze up to your right fingertips. And then start to bring your right palm through towards the left side, facing up for thread the needle, coming down onto your right shoulder. And then, again, you can play around with how you want your bottom half of your body to be. But no matter what position you're in with your legs, pay attention to your hips. Likely your left hip is higher up than your right. So just seeing if you can square your hips so that they're more even and parallel. And then bringing your head down to something, so either the mat or a pillow or whatever. And then if you really want to stretch more into your upper body and to get into this a little bit more, you can start to extend your left fingertips towards the top of your mat, just to get more into the shoulder on this side. So close your eyes once you're in the shape that you want to be in. And this posture really helps undo all the sitting that we do, the texting, the driving, the stuff on the computer, whatever, sitting on the couch watching TV, whatever you're doing, it helps undo some of that. And then also if you tend to store tension in your upper body, this is just a nice compression to release some of that tension. So use your breath here, close your eyes, come back to your breath. We're halfway through this side already, so breathe in and breathe out. You've extended your left fingertips towards the top of the mat. Start to bring them in towards your face, grounding down into your left palm. Inhale, we're just gonna come out of this, bringing your right fingertips back up to the sky, and then we'll take some arm circles in one direction, and then the opposite direction, just to release tension there. And then come back to that tabletop position. We'll just swap that out to the other side. So when you're ready, grounding down into your right palm this time. Inhale, take your left fingertips up to the sky or gaze up. And then exhale, bring it through for thread the needle on this side. So you're gonna come down onto your left shoulder this time, bringing the left side of your face down to the mat or your prop. And then you can start to extend your right fingertips towards the top of the mat if that feels good to you and that's something that you want. And then again, closing your eyes whenever you've come to a position that you're gonna hold, getting all your wiggles out in the beginning, finding a shape that feels good to you. So just getting into this here. And you may notice now that you're in this side that one side was a little bit more tense and tight than the other. Typically it's your dominant arm. So I'm a lefty, this side is harder for me. And I notice it a lot more and don't particularly like it, but afterwards it feels so good to release that extra tension. So if you do need to, get into a certain side more or do something extra just to get that out, again, you guys know your body's the best and should honor and listen to them when they're telling you things and allow your body to really release anything that you're holding on to. your mind has started to wander, just bring it back here. Pay attention to any areas of tension in your body, seeing if you can release them. Being mindful of your breath. We have just a few rounds of breath here, so just taking your time, taking in what you still need from this posture, letting go things that you don't. You've extended your right fingertips towards the top of your mat. Start to slide that back towards your face. Ground down into your right palm. Inhale, lift your left fingertips back up to the sky. And then again, we'll just take some arm circles in one direction. And then the opposite direction, just to let that all go. And when you're ready, we are going to do pigeon pose or sleeping swan. You can take frog if you would rather, but if you want to take pigeon, we'll just come to our tabletop position. And then slowly start to slide your right knee in toward your right wrist, bringing your ankle toward your left wrist with your shin as parallel as possible to the top of your mat. Start to extend your left leg long behind you. And before you come down all the way, take a peek over either shoulder just to ground your hips towards the mat. Inhale, take your gaze up. Exhale, start to fold over to put your pigeon or sleeping swan to sleep. And this is where props can come in handy. You can always place a block or a blanket underneath your right hip so that you're not really dumping into that hip area. You can place some blankets or pillows underneath your chest or forehead, just so that you can relax your upper body, not hold your tension to hold yourself up. Undoing what we did and thread the needle by not using your props for support. So grab those props, find your way, close your eyes once you're there. You might be sensing some tension in your hip area. And this is just a really good one to hold for a few minutes just to really get into the connective tissue in our hamstrings and our hips, low back. Just a lot of good areas get stretched out in this pose. And it can be so uncomfortable because typically we're holding on to our tension in these areas, and then when we're forced to really open them up, it can be hard. So just breathing in, closing your eyes, tuning into your breath. We're halfway through this side already, so hopefully that brings a little smile to your face knowing that we're almost done. And we can switch it out because we do need to, unfortunately, keep ourselves even. And so that means that we have to do both sides. But the good news is it means that you have another opportunity to let things go, to release, to renew, to restore. This is your reminder to breathe. You may not even be thinking about your breath, but don't hold on to your breath here. Let your breath flow as freely as possible. So if you need to count your inhales and your exhales, just to be mindful of your breathing, please do that. But so often when we're in tense, tight poses or trying to release tension and pigeon, we hold our breath more than we need to. So seeing if you can soften. Take a deep breath in. Big sigh out, let something go. And your next inhale, start to make your way out of this. It's gonna look different for all of us, so take your time. Coming back to that tabletop position. And then just taking whatever counter pose that would feel good to you. So maybe that's just swaying your hips from side to side. In your tabletop, maybe some cat-cows would feel good, or you can extend your right leg long, pressing into your toes, getting a full stretch on the back side of your right leg, taking some hip circles, again, whatever feels good to you. And then when you're ready, we're just gonna swap that out to the other side. So coming back to your tabletop, start to slide your left knee in towards your left wrist, grabbing onto your left ankle to bring your left shin as parallel as you can to the top of the mat. Start to extend your right leg back behind you. And then again, peek over either shoulder just to square your hips. And then take your gaze up, puff up your chest. And on your exhale, that's when you can slowly start to come down. So again, you might need some props underneath your left hip might feel good. You might need it under your chest or forehead or forearms here. Listening to what your body needs and taking that on this side. And again, each side's gonna feel so different. So just be mindful, paying attention to what those differences are, to where you're storing tension, seeing if you can work on that throughout the week. Seeing what you can let go of here. Imagining that you're releasing your stress, your worries, your tension, whatever, onto your mat. And you're decluttering, you're letting all of that stuff go. And then at the end of your class, at the end of practice tonight, you're gonna roll up your yoga mat and all that stuff's just you're not gonna bring it with you. It's gonna just go away. So just have that visual of, this is your time to declutter, to get rid of that stress and tension, to let whatever comes up for you to come up for you, and then to let it go. There's so many things outside of our control. The people around us, the things that they do or don't do. Might be thinking about how other people are handling what is happening right now with the pandemic, and that might be stressing you out one way or another. And it's one of those things where it's like, fortunately we can't control others, but we can control what we do and who we have in our orbit, and what we do with our space and all that good stuff. And the rest we can't control. It's all an illusion. Control is such an illusion. And all we can do is control ourselves in the best way possible, which, that's just allowing ourselves to be ourselves, allowing ourselves to feel the things that we need to feel, to process our emotions, to get through that full cycle of stress and relieving all of that. So just thinking about, the things that are within our control and things that aren't, and anything that's not, it's not for you to carry. That's not for you to, stress over, because you stressing over it isn't going to change the outcome, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you that it would, but it won't. So wasting energy on that is just not good for you. It's not good for those around you. So try to use your energy for things that you actually can do something about. Saving space, making room for the stuff that you do, want and can do, and letting go of the stuff that you can't. Take one deep breath in. Big sigh out, let it go. Your next inhale, slowly make your way out of this. Again, it's going to look different on this side. So removing any props out of the way. Coming back to your tabletop. And then taking any counter poses that you might need. So it might be different on this side. Again, you can sway your hips from side to side. You might extend your left leg long behind you, pressing into your toes, feeling that great stretch on the back side of your leg. And when you're ready, we're going to come down to our spines. So just slowly coming down, one vertebrae at a time, touching all the way down. Then we're just going to take a brief stop in happy baby before we take our final rest. So bring your knees in towards your chest, grab on for the outer edges of your feet, bringing your knees out wide and towards your armpits. And you can always grab onto your calves or even your hamstring area. You can just grab onto that if the outside edges of your feet just aren't accessible to you or it just seems like too much of a stretch. And then you might want to just stay still, or if you're craving some movement or just need to loosen up your low back, you can sway from side to side. Again, just finding some movement or a shape that feels good to you, taking in what you still need, releasing what you don't. And when you're ready, before you come to your final Shavasana, come to a really tight ball pose. So bring your knees in towards your chest, and then try to bring your forehead up towards your knees and just squeeze yourself into this tight ball. So bringing as much tension to your body, your forehead, so everything against what I always tell you, instead of relaxing it all, just tense it all up. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then on your exhale, just release it all out, sigh it out. Come to your final resting shape. So if you want to do legs up the wall, that's a really good option. If you want to just come to traditional Shavasana to start to extend your legs out, you can always bring some blocks or pillows underneath both of your knees. It would feel really good to release your low back in that posture. And bringing your toes to either side. So again, find your shape that feels good to you. Just sigh out, release that tension that you just created in that tight ball pose. And you can bring your hands to your belly or to the earth, facing down with your palms, just finding that grounding shape. But just do a quick body scan before we take a few moments of rest here. So releasing any tension you're holding onto in your face, softening your jaw, releasing your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Shrug your shoulders up towards your ears and then let them roll down your back. Allowing your hands, your fingers to just release any tension that you might be gripping onto there. Letting your low back really soften and open. And then finally, allowing your feet to fall to either side so that your body can just fully rest here. And enjoy these next few minutes of complete rest. Shavasana is here for you as long as you need. You're in your space. Please take the extra time if it's calling to you. Tune out the sound of my voice and just continue to rest. If you're ready to move enough to move on with your evening so that you can get ready for bed or just crawl into bed at this point, start to bring some awareness back to your body by wiggling your fingers or your toes. Then slowly make your way to either side for a brief stop in fetal pose, closing your eyes, thanking yourself for showing up tonight. And then slowly on your next inhale, start to push your way up to a comfortable seated position, bringing your hands to your heart center and softly closing your eyes. Take a deep breath in, allowing your belly to fully expand out. And then on your exhale, release all the air out. Breathe in something good, something awesome that you're looking forward to in the new year. Breathe out something you no longer need. Thank you guys so much for joining me for the last class of 2020. I hope that we all have a bright new year ahead. Namaste.